What's up, guys? Marty here, and we are about to get going on this podcast. How's everyone doing today? Okay, so last time I did a podcast, I was talking about burnout, which is a terrible thing. But after burnout, usually comes this period, this overcorrection period, which induces boredom. It's like, oh, it's like my life was chaos, but I was kind of addicted to it. It's like, let's be honest, to kind of thrive in the chaos, but that leads to burnout. And then you kind of get to this place where it's like, well, that shit kind of sucked. Let's play it safe for a little bit. And then you get caught up in this boredom loop. So that's what this podcast is about. That's about my own personal story and struggle with this. And it's about the need for certainty met in a sometimes destructive way, sometimes neutral way, definitely not an empowering way. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So if you guys are ready, I'm just going to keep going here in 3, 2, 1, and what's up, everybody? Marty here. And today I wanted to talk about the problem with absolute certainty. Now, you hear this a lot in the marketing world. You hear this a lot from a mindset perspective of being a business owner, being somebody who's going out there and getting it. It's like absolute certainty always wins. And that can be very true. And it is very true in most circumstances. But what happens whenever you begin to crave absolute certainty on a whole new level? It's like, what happens whenever you feel like you must control everything, even the things that you're not in control of? And that's where some problems can happen for sure. But just to understand this a little bit more, let me tell you a quick story. Is like, whenever life hits you with a serious pain bomb that throws your uncomfortable or your comfortable existence into total and utter chaos, there tends to be a little bit of an overcorrection afterwards. So, you go out through this, you go through this burnout loop sometimes where it's like, let's be honest. Can I be honest with you guys for just a second? It's like business owners, entrepreneurs, marketers, gamers, we all kind of thrive in the chaos. We kind of are addicted to it. The what's going to happen next thing. That's, after all, that's why you play the game, right? Well, whenever you get called in this and you thrive too much in that chaos, it causes burnout. I talked at length about that last time, but I think about the biggest wall possibly that I've hit in my life is like, you begin as a marketer, as a business owner, you start to tell your stories, and you tell your stories for a lot of different reasons. But one of those reasons is you become clear on what was the turning point. What was the big pain that caused everything to shift, where things can no longer go along this path line anymore. And I think about one of my biggest walls, and that was, I was a successful personal trainer. I was competing in amateur MMA. I was training hard on mostly a daily basis. I would only not train whenever I physically was unable to. I was usually training somebody else. I was riding the high of 100-pound weight loss. Probably lost a little too much weight, but that's not the story I'm telling. But that's just, I say that because it contributed to that burnout loop that I was talking about. I was living my dream, competing, training people on the side when I wasn't training myself until I needed a rest, in which case I'd study jiu-jitsu, I'd study kickboxing, I would study MMA, I'd watch all these old fights, and I would play video games whenever my mind just couldn't handle any more input whenever it came to martial arts. And then by one of the sneakiest punches I've ever been hit with in my life, it came out of nowhere, was whenever I blew my ACL out. Like, life rocked me hard during that point, because I was like, as uncomfortable as that existence might sound to some people, I was totally comfortable with where I was right there. I was thriving in the chaos of training MMA. I was riding the highs, riding the lows, and I was helping people, and I was comfortable in doing all this. And then I blew my knee out, and my life changed forever on that day. I could spend a lot of time really describing the pain of it, but just to sum it up, since I've talked about it a lot, it hurt, and it hurt bad. But it wasn't just the physical pain that got to me, though. It hurt my pride, because I had reached a level that only I had dreamed of at one time. I can remember being 100 pounds overweight, watching fighters compete in the UFC on TV and going, man, I wish that could be me. Like, maybe not even in the UFC, just to get in the cage, just to leave it out there all on the line. I had gotten there. I had tasted it, and it was gone. And I had burned my entire past life to the ground to get there. It hurt my ego, because it revealed it wasn't as bulletproof as I thought. And, you would have thought I would have figured that out in the prior 2 knee surgeries before that. But still, in my mind, it was like, I can't get hurt, I can't be beat, all this kind of stuff that you must have in order to be a fighter. But it's kind of like sometimes you see in MMA, somebody gets knocked out and then they're never the same again afterwards. That was exactly the same for me. This injury, to me, like, just from an internal standpoint, felt so catastrophic that I immediately was like, that can't happen again. So what did I do after I decided that, after my body felt that, after my body submitted to that idea? It's like, I sat there for a long time by myself. Everybody else was at work, and I was at home on the couch alone to be with myself and to be with all the internal struggles that were going on. But the big overarching thing was, I was letting myself get eaten alive by these negative emotions. I was just sitting in there, wallowing in them, not doing anything. And, I was shelled up. I was in full defense mode. It was like the hands were up. Spine was curled, just wounded animal. And it was survival mode. And the only thing that I craved for a very long time was just give me certainty. I had thrived in the chaos for so long, but this was just too much. And Tony Robbins talks about your success is directly tied into how much uncertainty you can handle. And, I was really pushing that boundary. I was really, like I said in the last episode, playing above my current skill set, playing several levels above where I actually was at the time. And that led to burnout, and that led to something physically breaking. Like, it was a non-contact injury, the most anticlimactic thing you had ever seen, really. And for a long time, I thought that if I could just make these systems and put up these walls that kept me safe, all of my problems would go away. That way I could have absolute certainty over when and where I did everything at all times. No more problems. Oh, that was a bad idea. That was the wrong approach. And it wasn't until one day that I kind of just realized that I stopped playing the game because I was so sure of what was going to happen. Has that ever happened to you before? You just kind of play any game. I don't know. For me, back whenever I was a really small boy, probably about 7 or 8 years old, I would play Mortal Kombat, and I would play on like very easy or easy, and then against the computer. And it just got so boring, I'd move on to the next thing. You know, it's like, it wasn't until like I played another human being that it actually became fun. It's like I always could have increased the difficulty, but that's just kind of where I was at to make this point. You know, eventually I did. Eventually I figured, I was like, oh, you're getting bored of where you are. It's like, it's time to level up. It's time to push yourself again. But that's when it clicked for me. That's whenever I realized what I was doing to myself. I was just playing. I was stuck in my comfort zone, and I didn't want to come out to play. And that caused me to stop playing anything. Caused me to be like, well, you know, I was rehabbing too hard at first, and then I like stopped. I was like, maybe I'm doing this too much. Maybe I don't need to do this at all, which was wrong. I stopped playing in the game of business. I stopped. I had a very difficult time getting out there, getting my message out there in the first place. But it really seemed like, oh, well, everything I was saying before was wrong. So you just need to shut up and not talk, was what was going on through my head. That gave me no fuel, no motivation to innovate. I was losing connection. And I was picking it up in all these other places, in these very safe places and safe spaces. And I stopped. I stopped playing the relationship game with myself and with other people. I was beginning to isolate more and more. And before too long, this safety net that I created around my comfort zone to protect myself, to get absolute certainty in my life, became the most boring existence I had ever faced. You know, long after I was able to walk again, for several months, I was stuck in neutral. Like, I wasn't going anywhere. This is like the epitome of grinding your gears, pun intended, and spinning your wheels. And that's when it hit me. You know, that's when I understood what I was doing. My survival needs were being met in destructive ways. And all I needed to do was to identify how I was meeting the needs for certainty, uncertainty, significance, and connection and love. And I wrote it all down one day. I was like, this is how you're doing it. And then I went back through and was like, okay, is that constructive, destructive, or neutral? Like I said, I listened to a ton of Tony Robbins until I got it right for myself. And then I could clearly define on a daily basis what the win requirements were. What did it mean to win the game of life today? Some days were good, we won. Some days were bad, we lost. We got beat to shit and back. And some were great. But at the end of it all is like, I figured out how to make a game out of what it means to live a balanced life for me personally, no one else. But the system that was created through all this, like this pressure, this duress makes incredible systems. And this system that was created can be applied to anybody who's ready to not only win the game of life, but to start playing full out again. You know, and at the very least, just start playing the game again, because that fear of failure was one thing for me. I feel like everybody has that. But I also had this fear of success thing. It was like, oh, if I win, then people are going to have expectations of me. It was like, well, that may be true, but that's not the person that should have the expectations. It's you, it's me, it's Marty. I was the one who had expectations. You know, rules and parameters are an essential element of any game, and that's true. But what's the point if you're not actively playing the game? It's like MMA has a rule set. It's like there's things you can and cannot do, and you know, it doesn't matter how the cards are stacked up, how big of a underdog somebody is, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like they still have to fight. They still have to play the game. That's why you fight the fight. That's why you play the game, because no victory is ever assured, no matter how much absolute certainty you think you have surrounding you. And that's what makes it fun. That's what makes you feel fully alive. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that your upgrade for today is have your clearly defined systems, have your win requirements, but go out there and play the game not knowing for sure that you're going to win or not. Because that's where all the fun is. And remember, you're one upgrade away. All right. That felt pretty good to me. Okay. I'm going to record a quick intro right quick. And let's see what I'm going to say. So many business owners and entrepreneurs crave absolute certainty in your life. After all, there's no better skill set or tool you can bring with you whenever you play the daily game of life and business and absolute certainty. But how much is too much? And what is the problem with absolute certainty? Stick around. We're going to talk about that today. All right. Guys, before I sign off right here, I have a free web class that's going on this Thursday. And I'm getting traffic to the page, but I'm not getting anybody to opt in. And, you know, it is driving me crazy. It's like the ads working, but people aren't opting in on the landing page. So let me just tell you about it and why you need to be there. Real quick, I'm just pulling it up. So I've been really dedicating the past couple of podcasts to this subject, but I wanted to let you guys in and introduce you guys into the systems that I've been talking about on the podcast here. And this web class this week is called How to Put an End to Burnout Without Sacrificing Your Results or Passions in Business and Life. The game-changing systems for revolutionizing your life and business, guaranteed. I promise you it's going to be awesome. So all you got to do is click the link in the description or go to gearedupinsider.com. It's going to direct you right there. And I promise it's going to be amazing. I'm going to talk about secret number 1, the ultimate game for manifesting your unique win without sacrificing your passions or relationships. Secret number 2, how to reprogram your brain for success without suffering through identity crisis. And secret number 3, my slightly evil plan to build an elite team of gamer entrepreneurs on the same epic mission to train, game, and make it rain. So that sounds cool to you guys. Hop on in. Or better yet, leave a comment and let me know what you want me to cover on this. So I made sure I cover everything. I want to hit everything. So remember, guys, you're one upgrade away.